Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Archana Solanki. Here are the headlines we're tracking this evening. Sensex and Nifty end with marginal losses after a volatile session. Mid-caps rebound after a sharp sell-off in the last two sessions. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping scheduled to hold their first bilateral meeting in 5 years on the sidelines of the BRICS summit. The meeting comes days after India and China reached an agreement on border patrolling in eastern Ladakh. Israel claims to have killed the presumed leader of Hezbollah in an attack earlier this month. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken calls for a ceasefire and says the U.S. fully rejects the idea of a permanent occupation of Gaza by Israel. Setback for Byjus as lenders reclaim control of the troubled EdTech company. Supreme Court sets aside the company law appellate tribunal's decision to halt the insolvency proceedings. Apex Court also scraps Byju's settlement with BCCI, rules that US-based lenders have raised legitimate concerns over round-tripping. The Supreme Court upholds the power of state governments to tax and regulate industrial alcohol. A 9-judge bench overturns a 34-year-old verdict with an 8-1 majority. SEBI chief Madhvi Puri Byju could appear before the Public Accounts Committee tomorrow. Sources say the Hindenburg allegations against her are not on the agenda, but lawmakers can ask questions about the charges. Hoax bomb threats continue to disrupt Indian aviation. Indigo and Akasa report fresh threats today. More than 170 bomb hoaxes have been reported in the last 10 days. Government urges social media companies to act proactively against the circulation of such threats. Priyanka Gandhi makes her electoral debut, files a nomination for the Wayanad by-polls, flanked by her family after holding a roadshow. All right, let's start with the day's market action. A volatile day saw the Nifty and Sensex end mildly in the red. Banks fell in line with the blue chips. However, mid-caps bucked the trend. The index ended over 0.5%. In the oil market, crude oil prices slipped after data showed that US crude inventories had swelled more than expected. However, losses were capped as the market watched diplomatic efforts in West Asia after Israel continued attacks on Gaza and Lebanon. Brent is around $75 a barrel. Gold and silver prices hit fresh all-time highs in India amid escalating tensions in West Asia and a surge in investor demand. Silver prices breached the 1 lakh rupee per kilo mark in the country. Globally, silver prices have surged nearly 48% this year, outperforming gold, all industrial metals and energy commodities. And speaking of escalating tensions in West Asia, Israel claims to have killed the presumed leader of Hezbollah, Hashim Safiuddin, in an airstrike earlier this month. Safiuddin was the head of Hezbollah's political decision-making body and was reportedly selected to lead the group a few years ago. Israel has also claimed that the strike has killed 25 other Hezbollah leaders. However, the Lebanon-based militant group has not commented on Israel's claim yet. Meanwhile, 3 Israeli airstrikes targeted Beirut's southern suburbs overnight. According to Lebanese government, 63 civilians have been killed, raising the death toll to over 2,500 in the past 24 hours. Lebanon also claims that more than 11,800 people have been wounded in the region since October last year. Lebanese officials have said that it needs $250 million a month to help more than 1 million people displaced by Israeli attacks. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has urged Israel to use the opportunity for a strategic result for bringing back hostages and de-escalate tensions in Gaza. Blinken has left Tel Aviv for Riyadh as he hopes to broker a ceasefire.
$250 million a month for a country that's actually annual budget doesn't exceed $2 billion. So this is the challenge, and the root cause of this is actually a war waged against us, a war that's totally not respecting any of the international humanitarian law or any of the UN resolutions or any of the international law. And I think this is what matters. We need to stop the war.
Israel has achieved most of its strategic objectives when it comes to Gaza, all with the idea of making sure that October 7th could never happen again. In the space of a year, it's managed to dismantle Hamas's military capacity. It's destroyed a bunch of its arsenal. It's eliminated its senior leadership, including, most recently, Yahya Sinwar. This has come at the cost, great cost, to Palestinian civilians in Gaza. Now is the time to turn those successes into an enduring strategic success. And there are really two things left to do. Get the hostages home and bring the war to an end with an understanding of what will follow.
The big story this evening, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and China's President Xi Jinping will hold their first bilateral meeting in 5 years on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Russia today. Earlier in the day, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi appeared in the same frame as leaders of the expanded BRICS alliance took their first picture. Countries like Iran, UAE, Ethiopia and Egypt had joined the BRICS earlier this year. The bilateral between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi is significant as it comes days after India and China reached an agreement on border patrolling in eastern Ladakh. An informal meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi took place in October in 2019 in Tamil Nadu's Mahabalipuram. The meeting had come 2 months after the Indian government abrogated Article 370. The two leaders also had brief encounters at the Bali G20 summit in 2022 and the Johannesburg BRICS summit in 2023.
ब्रिक्स विश्व की 40% मानवता और लगभग 30% अर्थव्यवस्था का प्रतिनिधित्व करता है। पिछले लगभग 2 दशकों में ब्रिक्स ने अनेक उपलब्धियां हासिल की हैं। मुझे विश्वास है कि आने वाले समय में यह संगठन वैश्विक चुनौतियों का सामना करने के लिए और अधिक प्रभावी माध्यम बनकर के उभरेगा।
Right, in court corner, a setback for Byjus. The Supreme Court has set aside the Company Law Appellate Tribunal's decision to halt the insolvency proceedings. The apex court also annulled Byju's settlement with BCCI and ruled that the US-based lenders have raised legitimate concerns over round-tripping. With this verdict, lenders have reclaimed control of the company. Ashmit Kumar joins us now. Ashmit, take us through the significance of the verdict.
Well, here are the quick facts of the case. BCCI as well as Byjus had sought to settle a payment dispute over 158 crore rupees, and on the back of that, the NCLAT had allowed for closure of insolvency proceedings. Now, the proceedings then moved here before the apex court on account of the US lenders. The US lenders raising allegations of siphoning off, of mismanagement, saying that their claims are still outstanding and therefore there can be no case made out for closure of these proceedings. This was the question here before the apex court. The Supreme Court, in its decision today, has very clearly held that as far as the rules that dictate the settlement proceedings are concerned, they were not followed. The settlement application needs to be filed by the IRP. Did not happen in this case. The settlement application needs to go before the NCLT. Again, did not happen. It went straight to the NCLAT. And on these procedural grounds, the apex court has rejected the NCLAT order, has set that aside. And importantly, this will bring the insolvency proceedings back into play. The COC again will come back into play. The Supreme Court has said that the settlement amount of 158 crore rupees that Byjus was bringing in will now go towards the COC. An important caveat, though, however, the apex court has held that it is not dwelling into the merits of the claims and allegations that have been raised by independent sides. That is something that will now be open to adjudication before the NCLT and the NCLAT. Back to you.
Right, Ashmit, let's also talk about a nine-judge Supreme Court bench that's overturned a 34-year-old judgment of the apex court. The top court has held that state governments have the power to regulate and tax industrial alcohol, which is used in manufacturing perfumes and spirits. Take us through the order and its significance.
Well, it's an important case. It's been pending for 25 years now. A key issue that decides the power of the state versus the power of the centre to regulate and tax industries. The one industry in question is industrial alcohol. This issue has been pending for 25 years, being decided this morning by a rare occurrence by a 9-judge bench of the apex court. In an 8:1 ratio, what the apex court has clearly held is that it is the state government which has the power to regulate and tax industrial alcohol. This entire issue arose way back in 1999 when the UP government had sought to levy an ad valorem fee of 50% on manufacture and sale of industrial alcohol. This was opposed by the centre, saying that this is an exclusive domain of the centre. Now, what's important is that the UP government had argued that in a post-GST world, in a post-GST regime, such sources of income become critical to the state government. Now, it's important because it has large revenue implications across various states. The states of UP and Kerala were petitioners in this matter, but this is applicable across the country to all states. So important on that count. Interesting because it is a rare case where we found that the state government, which is led by BJP-led Yogi Adityanath, was opposing the BJP-led government at the centre. So interesting question here being settled by the Apex Court by 9-judge bench of the Supreme Court. Back to you.
Right, thank you, Ashmit, for that. It's time for a short break now. News and updates continue right here. Welcome back. In national news, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra has made her electoral debut. She filed her nomination for the Wayanad by-polls, flanked by her family, after holding a road show. Remember, the Wayanad seat was vacated by Rahul Gandhi after he decided to retain the Rae-Bareli constituency.
I was saying that it has been 35 years since I have been campaigning for different elections. This is the first time that I am campaigning for your support for myself.
The Supreme Court has extended by 2 weeks the interim bail granted to Malayalam actor Siddique in a rape case. The court adjourned the hearing as the actor's lawyer sought more time to respond to Kerala Police's report. The police has sought a custodial interrogation, citing a stockpile of evidence against the actor. Siddique has been accused of raping a young actress. Hoax bomb threats continue to disrupt Indian aviation. Indigo and Akasa report fresh threats today. More than 170 bomb hoaxes have been reported in the last 10 days. Government has urged social media companies to act proactively against the circulation of such threats. At least 6 people have died after a building that was under construction collapsed in Bengaluru due to heavy rains. Officials have said some people are still trapped under the debris. Fire and emergency services are currently conducting search and rescue operations. The police have arrested the owner of the building and have filed a case of negligence against him. Cyclone Dana is set to hit coasts of Odisha and West Bengal in the next 24 hours. More than 5,000 relief centres have been set up and both the governments are gearing up to evacuate people in the impacted regions. The Indian Coast Guard has said it was on high alert and has deployed aircraft and vessels to the affected areas. An E. coli outbreak linked to McDonald's has hit 10 states in the United States. At least 49 people have been impacted. So far, officials have confirmed that 1 person has died and 10 people who've been hospitalized are in critical condition. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention is currently investigating the case. In a statement, McDonald's has assured to work with public health bodies and have removed their implicated items from the menu. All right, it's time for a short break. More news and updates in just a bit. Welcome back. SEBI Chief Madhvi Puri Butch could appear before the Public Accounts Committee tomorrow. Sources say the Hindenburg allegations against her are not on the agenda, but lawmakers can ask questions about the charges. Parikshit Luthra is here with more details on what we can expect.
This is going to be an important meeting of the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament. It is headed by KC Venugopal, the Congress General Secretary, and it has members from both the BJP, the NDA and the opposition as well. Several Congress, several TMC members part of this committee. Now, as per convention, the chairman or the head of the body that has been called by the parliamentary committee has to appear before the panel. So in this case, the topic, the theme of the discussion is the performance review of regulatory bodies in the country. So as part of this, officials of TRAI and SEBI have been called. These meetings will take place from 11 a.m. in the morning to about 2:33 in the afternoon tomorrow, and the SEBI chief and the TRAI chief are likely to appear before the committee. Now, what is likely to happen? Well, the Hindenburg report has been in the news, and that has made some allegations against Madhvi Puri Butch, the SEBI chief, and her husband as well. We've been told by sources that this issue is not on the agenda. The agenda is only a performance review of the regulatory bodies. But that does not stop members from asking questions about the linkages with the Adani Group. That is a possibility. Now, there could be an objection also, which the members of the ruling alliance, that is the BJP, could raise, saying that you cannot make any kind of personal allegations or personal questions to Madhavi Puri Butch. You cannot go off the agenda and you have to limit yourself to the topic of the agenda. So we're expecting some fireworks in that meeting as well. Having said that, what has the SEBI sent to the Public Accounts Committee ahead of this important meeting? Well, it has submitted a statement of accounts for FY23. The market regulator has submitted annual reports for FY23 and FY24. Annual reports have been submitted to highlight initiatives of the SEBI with regard to financial markets, primary and secondary markets, FPIs, regulatory action and enforcement, and protecting investor interest. SEBI has also provided details of audited accounts by the CAG, and they have also said that the internal audit manual of SEBI has been made applicable with effect from February this year.
Right, thank you, Parikshit, for that. And the much-awaited HUL numbers are out. I'm joined by my colleague Mangalam Malu for the details. Mangalam, over to you.
Well, you know, we have the basics of HUL numbers this time around. If you just take a look at the overall revenue, it's coming at a growth of just about 1.5%, which is slightly shy of street expectations, and that's actually gone down all the way to the bottom line as well. The EBITDA of the company has come in at around 3,650 crores. The street was working with a number of 3,750 crores, and the net profit at 2,611 crores, also slightly shy of street expectations. Now, onto the internals. You know, the beauty and wellness business has done well for them. It's an 8% revenue growth. The street was working with a revenue growth of anywhere between 7 to 8% out there as well. And the underlying volume growth, which is coming at 3%, is again better than you know, what the company has been posting over the last few quarters, but definitely slightly shy of street expectations. But this could be attributed to the general weakness that we're seeing in the consumer sentiment itself. I'm looking at you know, some of the other updates that have come by, and the most significant of that is the decision of the company to go ahead and separate their ice cream business. Remember, the company had formed an independent committee to look at the future of the ice cream business in line with what the parent had earlier guided for, and now the independent committee has gone ahead and decided that they will house the ice cream business in a separate entity, whether that will be a separate listed entity, whether there will be a slump sale, or whether it will be sold to another Unilever you know, itself. We'll just check. And as we're seeing, Rohit Java, who is the MD, is walking by, and we'll just hear from the management as well. Ritesh comes by too. So what I'll say is just wait for a bit and we'll listen to the management.
All right, that was Mangalam, who was giving us the latest on the HUL numbers. Joining us now is market expert Prakash Diwan on the broadcast. Mr. Diwan, thank you for joining us on the broadcast. What do you make of the numbers?
Very right with what state is expecting without policy.
Right, I'm afraid we're facing some technical glitches there. We'll try and fix that audio, but the big headline that we are tracking at the moment is the HUL numbers. HUL Q2 numbers slightly below street estimates. This is what we are reporting so far. We are waiting for the management to speak in a bit from now, but that is the latest that we are getting for you. The underlying volume growth, FUVG of 3%. This is let's cut across to the press conference.
Crude palm oil and tea witnessed inflation of 10 and 25% year-on-year respectively. We continue to remain agile and take actions to provide competitive price-value equation to our consumers. In this backdrop, we delivered a competitive 3% underlying volume growth. Reported underlying sales growth was 2%. In September quarter 23 last year, we reported a one-off credit that we received from a favorable resolution of an indirect tax litigation. Excluding this one-off in the base, our underlying sales growth was 3%. EBITDA margins remained healthy at 23.8%. Reported profit after tax before exceptional items declined by 2%, while intrinsically it grew by 2%. We have a strong track record of consistently delivering competitive and profitable growth, investing behind our brands and long-term strategic capabilities to generate healthy cash flows while building a strong balance sheet. In lieu of this, I'm very pleased to announce that the board has approved an interim dividend of rupees 19 per share, along with a special dividend of rupees 10 per share. Together, this would mean a total payout of 6,814 crores. This demonstrates our unwavering commitment to provide our shareholders with attractive returns. We remain focused on our 4 key thrusts to transform our business at scale. These are growing the core through unmissable brand superiority, driving premiumization, reshaping our portfolio in high growth spaces, and leading in channels of the future. Using this lens, let me share with you the progress made on key business and strategic areas in the quarter. Under the pillar of growing the core through unmissable brand superiority, I am pleased to report that more than 80% of our turnover has been assessed in superior against competition. Let me highlight 3 campaigns rolled out by Vim, Dove and Clinic Plus designed to drive meaningfulness amongst consumers in the quarter. These culture-first, social-first promotional campaigns have achieved their objectives, striking a chord with consumers while amassing millions of views and driving up consumer brand association. We are leading the way in enabling consumers to upgrade their experience by premiumizing our portfolio. Treseme's La Mer Gloss range, Diabetes Plus in chocolate flavor, Comfort Beats, Lakme Lip Glaze and Lip Oil are just a few of the launches where we have leveraged our superior R&D and deep consumer insight to deliver new formats and benefits. We are reshaping our portfolio with agility to pursue high growth opportunities. In this quarter, we have forayed into floor cleaner market with our brand Vim, a superior product enabled by proprietary technology. In the beauty space, we have continued to expand our play in the identified 6 formats of future by introducing Pond's Hydra Miracle Body Lotion and Simple's Cleaning Jelly Oil. With Connor's Korean Kimchi Soup and Hellmann's Mayo Access Pack, we are expanding our portfolio as well as distribution in fast-growing mini meals and condiment segments. With our wide assortment and ability to curate portfolio for each channel, we are confident to serve different consumer needs across each of these channels, ensuring mutual growth. Shikhar is one of the levers of driving a Kirana-centric approach. Our buy smarter, sell more approach has resulted in stores onboarded on Shikhar growing faster with better assortment in comparison to non-Shikhar adopted stores. We are committed to growing categories in store and asserting leadership in modern trade during tentpole events and regional festivals. In e-commerce, we have stepped up our activation ahead of the festive and winter seasons, and as a result of our dedicated efforts, we continue to gain healthy market shares. We focus initiatives in organized trade has led us to continue our double-digit growth trajectory for SQ24 in organized trade. Moving on to performance across the segments. Home care, our largest segment, grew 8%. The segment delivered high single-digit volume growth. Beauty and well-being delivered 7% intensive USG, driven by mid-single-digit volumes. Reported growth for the segment was 1%. While personal care witnessed a sequential improvement in turnover, the segment declined 5% with low single-digit volume decline in volumes. We continue to strengthen our competitive position in foods and refreshment segment. However, revenue declined marginally. USG declined 2% with low single-digit decline in UVG. Margins in all 4 segments remained healthy, with home care at 19%, beauty and well-being at 34%, personal care at 17%, and food and refreshment at 18%. Moving on, let me quickly summarize performance of the first half of financial year 25. Talking about reported numbers, underlying sales growth was 2% with underlying volume growth of 3%. Gross margin remained above 50% and EBITDA margin remained healthy at 23.8%. PAT BI was flat while PAT declined by 1%. Excluding the one-off impact in the base, our PAT BI grew 3%. Looking ahead in the near term, we expect demand trends to be stable with no further acceleration in pace of growth. In this context, our focus remains on driving competitive volume-led growth while continuing to invest behind our brands and strategic priorities. If commodity prices remain where they are, we expect a low single-digit price growth in the near term. We will continue to manage our business dynamically to drive savings through our net productivity program and provide the right price-value equation to our consumers while maintaining EBITDA at its current healthy levels. With this, I complete my prepared remarks and I will take questions.
Right. Congratulations on delivering your numbers in what is actually a tough quarter. But, the toughness is something that a lot of the consumer companies have called out for. And I'm looking at your remarks as well. You're witnessing moderate growth or moderating growth in urban markets while rural is continuing to recover gradually. Two-part question here is, what exactly is happening and what are the reasons that you attribute to this weakness? Because we had a comment coming in from Suresh Narayanan as well, saying that maybe shrinking middle class is what is impacting growth in urban India. What are the determinants of this moderating growth, if you could comment on that first?
Yeah, let me first of all state that where we come from is basically the business we are in. and what we experience. So I should just comment from the lens of Hindustan Unilever and our categories and our presence in our portfolio. And as we mentioned previously, the rural markets have been on the recovery path for some time and continue to recover gradually. And please note that it's about a third of our business comes from rural areas and 2/3 comes from urban areas. In the recent near term, we have seen a certain slowdown in the urban markets. They are continuing to grow, but the growth rate is trending down. And on the whole, therefore, the markets are slightly down compared to where they were, say, a few quarters back. Now, it's a near-term phenomenon, and it could be driven by various macro factors that could be short-term and long-term in nature. And where we come from, basically, is that we have to be very, very focused to go where the growth is. We have to be very, very focused on investing behind our brands and competitive capabilities, and also really keep consistent with the market development. And finally, we have to be very competitive, increase our competitiveness, and get stronger in every market condition. So the focus we have in a company is to see this as a near-term market trend and basically stay focused on doing what's right for the long term and measure our success in the level of our competitiveness, which, as you noticed from Ritesh's comments, we have in fact gained market share. We're pretty pleased with that progress. We're seeing strong leading indicators, and we remain very focused on essentially getting stronger through this market condition. Let's not forget that we are in a very exciting market, and often we get moved by near-term trends. The overall macro opportunity of the Indian market is absolutely solid. It's secular, and we should basically all be working to invest behind that trend, where the per capita consumptions in across categories are very, very low, and we'll see tremendous growth in the many quarters and years to come. So we should never get too caught up with the near-term trends and what's happening with, say, 2 or 3 or 4 months or even 6 months.
Just a follow-up to that largely, because the second part was, Ritesh in his prepared remarks did say that in the very near term, they don't see any further acceleration to demand. So in light of that, what can one look at when it comes to growth? There is low single-digit price growth, no further acceleration to demand. How should one look at least the next few quarters? Long term, yes, we're all positive on, but in the very next few quarters.
So I'll give it a shot, and I'll also ask Ritesh to help complement me. We do know for a fact that there's been no or negative price growth because of the deflationary period in the last few quarters. We now start to see that coming to an end. This year, our intrinsic price growth is flat. We expect to see price growth come back. There's inflation in some of our big categories. And as we mentioned, we will be looking at covering our costs in those categories. So therefore, price growth that tended to be in 3 or 4% long-term trend in the CPG market we account for is going to start trending back to the mean, we expect. And it'll all depend on really what's the level of inflation, and therefore we'll have to calibrate accordingly. The volume growths are volatile. They move up and down from quarter to quarter. And as rural is coming back and is higher than urban, which has been the longer-term trend, that's a good sign. And we'll see how the monsoon, the kharif crop and the impact of that on the economy is. And most indicators are positive, and we will have to see it being realized in the market. And if that does come through, then the rural recovery should continue to move on. And as far as urban is concerned, I cannot forecast the future. All I can say is that we should basically stay very focused on making sure that we do what's right for the near term, which is competitiveness, and for the longer term, which is investing behind our brands, capabilities, and stay consistently invested in market development, which is a real sort of the price in this market.
So just let me build and let me help you how you could think about it by quoting both internal and external factors. As Rohit mentioned, we know the market trends in terms of where urban is going, where rural is going, and hence cumulatively put together, you might see more momentum in rural as recovery happens with better monsoon overall, as we've seen, hopefully better agriculture output in short term. That should help rural recovery better. But urban, which is 2/3 of the business, we mentioned that the growths are moderating. So hence demand terms, in short term, the demand signals are more stable rather than showing material difference. In parallel, along with that, 60% of HUL's business is growing in high single digit. This quarter, I covered in the little while ago that home care at 8% growth, beauty and well-being, if I ignore the one-off that we have in the base, 7% growth. That's 60% of HUL's business. That is growing in high single digit. We know we have called out and we spoke about our personal care business, and there are 4 actions we are taking for it to change its growth trajectory in the next couple of quarters. That's the second signal I would want you to consider. Third, within the area of foods and refreshment, we spoke about tea. Overall tea growth of volumes in the market have been subdued because of the downgradation. Tea is now seeing inflation. We have almost 25% inflation, and there is a deterministic sign about that inflation that will lead into price increases. Overall, as Rohit mentioned, that we should see the trajectory of pricing, which was negative. This quarter, if I exclude the one-off, it is flat, and you will start seeing from next quarter onwards low single-digit price growth. So a combination of the external demand factors and combination of how the internal portfolio will transform and will grow in next few quarters, you could just put together and then think and make up your own thinking where it would be.
Sort of revenue growth.
Yeah, as I said, those are the levers that you would want to think together.
I want to understand that the mask